Hey everyone, welcome to Judging for the Win. I'm Dave, and this is my daily ruling. Today's question comes to us from the True Stories collection, as in, it actually happened at an event that I was actually judging. Amy casts Ephemerate, targeting her grief, and after that resolves, she plays another Ephemerate with the same target. During Amy's next upkeep, when she's rebounding both Ephemerates, can she target the same grief twice more to make her opponent discard 2 more cards? Okay, so to answer this question, let's go through exactly what happens step by step. At the beginning of Amy's upkeep, both Ephemerate rebound triggers will trigger. Amy controls both of them, so she decides what order they're put onto the stack. If these were different beginning of upkeep triggers, this decision would hold more significance, but in the case that we're considering, there's no difference except for whether Amy gets to play her retro frame Ephemerate first or her normal one. Now, the first rebound trigger to resolve will allow Amy to cast the associated Ephemerate from exile, targeting grief. After Amy does that, the Ephemerate spell will be the top object of the stack, with the other rebound ability below it. Therefore, the next thing that resolves will be the Ephemerate spell. The grief will be exiled and then returned to the battlefield, causing the grief's discard a card ability to trigger. This trigger will also go on the stack on top of the other rebound ability, which is still waiting to resolve. After Amy resolves the grief discard a card ability, the second rebound ability will resolve, allowing Amy to cast the other Ephemerate from exile. From this point, the game proceeds exactly as before, with the second Ephemerate also blinking the grief, and the grief ability triggering again so that Amy can have her opponent discard a second card. So that's the answer to our original question. This play works out exactly how Amy hoped, with her getting to grief her opponent twice this turn after griefing them twice on the previous turn. Ouch. Let's contrast that with a similar scenario. This time we'll say that Amy has 1 grief and 2 teleportation circles. And just like before, Amy wants to blink her grief twice to make her opponent discard 2 cards. Is this possible? And the answer here is actually different from the previous scenario. To see why, let's again go through everything step by step. At the beginning of Amy's end step, both teleportation circles will trigger, so Amy will put them both onto the stack. Part of the process of putting a triggered ability onto the stack is choosing its targets, so Amy would say at this time that she's targeting her grief with both these abilities. The first one, the resolve, will blink the grief, and that will in turn cause the grief ETB ability to trigger, as before. After the grief ETB ability resolves, the time will come for the second teleportation circle trigger to resolve. But there's a problem here. Have you spotted it? Anytime an object changes zones in Magic, it becomes a new object with no relationship to its previous self. This means that the grief that's currently on the battlefield is not considered to be the same as the grief that was targeted by the second teleportation circle, even though it happens to be represented by the same physical piece of cardboard. Accordingly, when that ability tries to resolve, the game will find that its target is no longer legal, so the ability will be removed from the stack with no effect. If you play with Ephemerate, you probably already know that you can use it to save your creature from any targeted removal spell following the same principle. This is also the reason why evoking a grief and then ephemerating it works. The grief that was evoked no longer exists, so there's no way to sacrifice it when the evoke trigger resolves. Likewise, the grief that's on the battlefield was not evoked, so there's nothing telling you to sacrifice it. And that's all I have for you today. How did you do? Join me again next time for another daily ruling. Until then, I hope you have a great day.